It is now 5:30, and so we will call to order this regularly scheduled Shawnee Mission School District Board of Education meeting. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is the adoption of the agenda. I'll seek a motion to adopt.
So moved. Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Our next item is the approval of the minutes from our special meeting on May 17th, 2021. I'll seek a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Is there a second?
Second, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Our next item is the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on May 17th, 2021. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Our next is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting on June 4th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second?
Second, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. All those in favor, please say aye. The next is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting on June 14th. Is there a motion to approve?
Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
1.8, approval of the minutes from the special meeting on June 14th. Is there a motion?
So
Good.
moved.
Thanks, Mr.
I'll
Stratton.
second. Goodburn.
Thanks, Ms. Goodburn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
1.9, approval of the minutes from the board workshop on June 14th. Is there a motion?
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thanks, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And finally, 1.10, approval of the minutes from our special meeting on June 19th, 2021. Is there a motion?
Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye. That moves us to the public comment portion of our meeting. Public comment occurs at regularly scheduled Board of Education meetings to provide individuals with an opportunity to address the board regarding school district issues. We ask that patrons submit a request to make public comment no later than noon on the day of the regularly scheduled board meeting. Tonight's meeting, public comment will be held until 6 p.m. After a short break, the board will resume at 6:05. Patrons in attendance at the meeting are asked to wear masks if they are not fully vaccinated. Instructions for electronic submission of patrons' notice to speak at public comment can be found at the Board of Education webpage as part of the district website. The clerk of the board, Terry Winnering, can guide you through this process if you need her. Her phone number and email address are located in board docs and on the website. While comments must be received no later than noon on the Monday of the meeting, patrons are encouraged to electronically submit their request to speak at public comment by 3:30 the Friday before a regularly scheduled board meeting. And this early submission allows the district to research and/or address patron concerns before the meeting when possible. We may impose a time limit of 3 minutes or less for each speaker in order to provide patrons the opportunity to speak. Requests for auxiliary aids or services for persons needing assistance to address the board should be made with appropriate advance notice so we can meet those requests. And there are a few reminders that help speakers have a constructive and positive experience when presenting your comments to the board. When you make your remarks, please proceed to the podium when your name is called and share your name, city of residency, and what schools your children attend if applicable, and the name of any group or organization you represent. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less as indicated by the buzzer when it goes off. In consideration of everyone's time, if you have a group spokesperson to represent your interests, you may choose to pass when your name is called if a previous speaker has already expressed your concerns. Written comments and/or materials are accepted and should be given to the clerk of the board for distribution. Please ensure, if you can, that there are at least 8 copies for distribution to board members and to the superintendent. Please make your comments while remaining behind the podium. And please note, complaints regarding specific students or staff should first be addressed to administration in accordance with Board Policy K in complaints. If that procedure has been completed, the board will then consider whether to hear the complaints in executive session in order to protect the privacy interests of the students or any staff involved. If comments pertain to an item on the meeting's agenda, the board president may ask the superintendent or his or her designee to address those comments at that time or when the item is up for board discussion. And generally, responses from board members during public comment is limited to clarifying questions. And with that, we will begin. Our first speaker for this evening is Ms. Carrie Ivy.
I give packets to everybody too with all the information I'm speaking on. First of all, I'd like to thank our teachers and staff for everything they have done to get us through this crazy year. We appreciate you. My name is Carrie Ivy from Lenexa. I have been a part of Shawnee Mission family for over 30 years. I attended K through 12, taught in the district for many years, and my 3 children are now at Crystal McCullough Elementary. The past school year, my family opted for remote-only learning in order to stay safe. I have a severe autoimmune disease in which my immune system attacks my liver. As a result, I get very sick very easily. After much research and talking to those in the medical field, I realized that unless all kids and staff are going to wear medical-grade masks to school, then we weren't truly safe from this virus. Virus protection from cloth masks is 0%. I am representing those parents who want their kids to come back mask-free. 2 of my children have hypersensitivity. One has ADHD and only focuses on what is bothering him at the moment. For children like them, it can be very debilitating to have to wear a mask all day long. It was a hard school year, but now that so many of our friends and family have had COVID, some contracted it at school, I might add, we now know that people who have had COVID have natural antibodies to the disease, and we also know that there are medications we can take to overcome COVID if needed. Let us come back mask-free. Now that teachers, school staff, parents, caretakers, and grandparents of the kids in our schools can get the vaccine if they choose to, it is time to let the parents choose if their child wears a mask or not. I do personally know immunocompromised students in our school, and my heart goes out to them 100%. But these cloth masks aren't truly protecting them and could actually be causing harm to all kids' physical and psychological health. Studies have shown that masks can cause illness in our kids too, and have been proven to be contaminated with antibiotic-resistant bacteria, parasites, and fungi, including dangerous pathogenic and pneumonia-causing bacteria. I have provided that information. On another note, it was recommended from my KU specialist that I not get the COVID vaccine. Hospitals are seeing adverse side effects, including organ failure. Sadly, I know people dealing with some adverse effects now. After much research, we will not be vaccinating our kids with the experimental COVID-19 shot. With that said, will we ever be able to go maskless in our schools? When does it end? Waiting for all of the children to get this vaccine is not the answer. The infection fatality rate in young children from COVID-19 is less than 0.003%. This number is less than the flu, according to the CDC. After this past year, we're going to have to work hard to repair the damage that has been done to our children. Working with special needs kids, I especially know that watching faces and recognizing emotions play a big role in this. Let's teach our children a healthy lifestyle of hand washing and give them nutritional support instead of focusing on masks. I speak for many parents out there when I say it's time to let the parents choose if their child wears a mask. Many school districts around us are getting back to normal and are mask-free. Please let Shawnee Mission follow suit. You decide, not the CDC. You're responsible for how this school year goes for over 27,000 students. Please choose the right path. Please take the time to read the information I provided for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Lisa Feingold.
I speak at public comment as it's the only way to be certain my thoughts are received by the board. I listen to public comment to stay engaged with fellow stakeholders. Separating public comment from the regular board meeting or ceasing its broadcast will send a clear message to the community. Some thoughts on board comments from June 14th's BCBI discussion. It was suggested there are multiple ways the public can participate. They can send emails, join committees, engage in surveys. Lots of ways the public can participate in the work of the board, district strategic plan. Additionally, since patron emails aren't shared, public comment doesn't need to be broadcast either. If it takes an interest to join a committee, sign me up. That's that easy. As for the drawing parallels between emails and airing public comment, you should do both. Posting one a month might build confidence in email as an effective way to participate. I don't think it was ever the intent to ditch public comment. I want to point out it's not statutorily required that we even provide public comment time. I don't think it's a wise decision to use public dollars to broadcast when YouTube is free. Stating it's not your intent to eliminate public comment while reminding us we are lucky to have it doesn't exactly give me the Team 512 feeling. The suggestion that public comment isn't a wise investment of public dollars is concerning, especially when you use tax dollars for administrative car allowances and cell phones. What about Inside SMSD at $17,000 a pop, or Thought Exchange, whose cost increases $15,000 annually without explanation? Apparently, the possibility of a member of the public saying something inaccurate justifies not airing public comment, but if a board member or administrator says something inaccurate, there's an opportunity for correction. There's no guarantee a correction would prevent YouTube from removing the broadcast for misinformation, and who would make the correction, especially if the commenter was not amenable to being corrected. First Amendment obligations, had a few questions about those over the years, me too, as have other district stakeholders and the ACLU, like in May 2017 when their emailed concerns about open forum to the board were ignored, in April 2018 when district leadership trampled students' constitutional right to free speech. It's critical to remember this is a public school district whose primary purpose is to serve the community. Public comment belongs to the public that elected you, and broadcasting it strengthens community engagement. Patrons also give public comment to highlight relevant issues. In 2019, student journalists addressed policy draft concerning student assembly, speech, and publications, which violated the district's ACLU settlement agreement. In 2020, teacher Amber Pagan advocated for bond option C and the need for appropriate restroom facilities for SMSD's youngest students. In 2018, parent Mary Murphy's comment on lunchtime food shortages single-handedly rectified the situation. Your assumption that everyone interested in public comment can physically attend meetings demonstrates a disconnect. Many people are working, caring for kids, or lack transportation. Are you going to disinclude them by omitting the public's part of your public meeting? Rest assured, if you do, someone will step up to meet the need. Either way, the revolution will be televised. Good luck on your next endeavor, Dr. Fulton. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Laura Smith Everett. Okay, I'm not seeing her, so our next speaker is Debbie Detmer.
I'm Debbie Detmer of Shawnee, Kansas. I have 8 grandchildren. The Shawnee Mission School District Board meeting has to have transparency in its entirety and available from the Shawnee Mission School District website. That includes the comment section. The question is, do you continue to use a censored platform for the Shawnee Mission School District Board meeting videos? And the answer is no. So choose a free speech platform like Rumble. Quit trying to make the decision to include your agenda to silence us. The emergency declaration ended June 15, 2021. It is over. Unmask our children now. Our Attorney General Derek Schmidt says whether a child wears a mask in the classroom should be the decision for the parents, just as schools need parental consent to give a child medicine. The legislators have tried to fix this, but now their work is tied up in the courts. It is time to move past the heavy-handed pandemic response that Laura Kelly set in motion, encouraged, and inspired. If you are not strong enough to be a leader, each one of you need to resign today. Quit following the CDC. They have an interest in vaccines. They are not the law, nor can they be portrayed as the law. Judge Stephen Merriday declared that the restrictions of the federal and state overreach should do so. We need leaders. The rights to face the unprecedented federal and state overreach should do so. We need leaders, not followers. Furthermore, by requiring children to wear a mask, you are promoting the idea that the mask can prevent or treat a disease, which is illegal, deceptive practice. It is unlawful to advertise that a product or service can prevent a disease unless you possess competent, reliable scientific evidence. And substantially, that claims that is true. I would like this competent report if you have one. And that is a coma request. Please send it to me. Like the WHO, the American Academy of Pediatrics says young children tend to have very mild cases with contact of COVID. The WHO also states that the children should not be vaccinated. This includes 12 to 15-year-olds. They have at least acted on this information being reported that many heart problems are now present in children that have been used as guinea pigs and received this experimental drug. The CDC is just looking into it. They have not taken any actions to protect our children. This is insufficient evidence to make recommendations to give these experimental drugs to our children safely. According to the VAERS data of June 11th, the CDC showed 358,379 reports of adverse effects in all age groups, including 5,993 deaths, which increased by another 105 the following week, and 29,871 serious injuries between December 14th and June 11th, up another 1,430 the following week. Quit suffocating our children now.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John David Bears.
Good evening. I'm John Bears. I've got 2 children in Marion Park. I'm here to call out the I'm sorry. Let me start over. This strategic plan of 2019-24 and the resignation of Tyrone Bates, the coordinator of diversity, equity, inclusion. The plan's chock full of words taken from CRT. You guys may not call it CRT, but it's got the same drive. It's a Marxist movement. 2 of the words that are in the strategic plan are inclusion. There was a workshop held on implicit bias. Implicit bias is a idea that everybody is subconsciously racist. That's never been mapped. The unconscious has never been mapped. We could talk all day about that. Equity, taken from one, given to another, depending on skin color. This is all racist. Whoever voted this plan in, this strategic plan, or the racist, I want to see this gone. I want to see the coordinator gone. This needs to be taken out of the school district altogether. It's a bad plan. It's turning our kids into people looking at race instead of the content of their character. Everything Martin Luther King stood for. You know, I'm kind of appalled that we stood and said the Pledge of Allegiance to a flag that represents freedom, and here you've got masks on our kids. They don't have a choice. You're teaching this Marxism to the kids. We need it out of the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment portion for this evening. The board will reconvene at 6 o'clock. It's now 6 p.m., and so we will turn to Dr. Fulton for his superintendent report.
Okay, thank you very much. Great to see everybody this evening. We have a number of good news notes tonight. First of all, we're so proud to share that Ishia Balzar, who advanced to the semifinal round of the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Out of 209 spellers that entered the National Bee, Balzar was among 30 to advance to the semifinals. She was a Johnson County Spelling Bee champion for 2 consecutive years and won the Sunflower State Spelling Bee, qualifying for the national competition. As an 8th grade graduate from Indian Hills, she is now looking forward to her freshman year at Shawnee Mission East. So what an amazing accomplishment, and congratulations to her. And speaking of our accomplished students, the Kansas City Star announced their 2021 list of top high school scholar athletes in the Metro. Sarah Bingham from Shawnee Mission East, Trevor Maxwell from Shawnee Mission North, Ty Black from Shawnee Mission Northwest, Max Close from Shawnee Mission South, and Olivia Morris from Shawnee Mission West were among this year's top honorees. These students were nominated by school coaches and educators and were selected based on athletic ability and accomplishments, academic achievement, participation, and overall impact on their school environment. So to them, we say well done and congratulations. We had a select group of Shawnee Mission educators who are taking part in the Burns and McDonnell Early Educator Fellowship that's provided by Startland. Denise Opson, Elisa Foshi, 2nd grade teachers from Comanche, Michael Soto and Amy Jonason, who are 4th grade teachers from Neiman, are among the 20 who were chosen from a competitive application process to participate. A goal of this program is to help students develop a passion for problem solving and creative thinking. So we want to congratulate these teachers on being selected, and we look forward to hearing of the learning opportunities that this provides for their students. We also want to remind everyone that Pick Up and Go meals continue to be provided to children ages 1 through 18 this summer. These free meals are available from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays at 4 locations in the district. As a reminder, there will be no pickup on Monday, July 5th, 2021, due to the Independence Day holiday. Meals will be distributed on July 1st, 2021, in preparation for that holiday closure. Children will receive meals for 7 days on July 1st. Pick-up and go meals will resume after the holiday on Thursday, July 8th, 2021. And we'll include a link in the recap with more information about locations and menus. We also want to thank everyone in the food service department, our student services staff, school building staff, security staff, and volunteers from across our community who are dedicating time this summer to prepare and distribute meals. This is a tremendous effort, and we're so fortunate to have so many caring individuals that are making sure children in our community are getting the nutrition they need during these summer months. Well, last week, we were pleased to see students in our buildings learning as part of the Summer Enrichment Program. Summer Enrichment provides students a chance to explore and discover areas of interest. Some students kicked off their summer learning experience at Westridge Middle School last week, taking classes in art, music, technology, science, nature, sports, and more. Here at the Center for Academic Achievement, we had students engaged in Camp Care, a class that gives students a chance to learn about future opportunities in healthcare. It also helped them learn more about the medical health science opportunities available to them in high school. Summer enrichment enrollment is open for classes at Westridge, along with the signature program and SED-like classes at the CAA. And we're going to include a link in the recap for those who are interested in learning more. Well, typically, the organizational chart for the new school year is presented as part of the board's reorganization meeting, which happens in July at the beginning of the meeting. This year, the reorganization meeting will follow this meeting, so I would like to provide Dr. Hubbard, who's the incoming superintendent, with an opportunity to present her new organizational chart. And Dr. Hubbard, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. So the organizational chart is typically done, as Dr. Fulton said, at the July meeting, but I just wanted to take just a real quick chance to talk a little bit about the organizational chart, as it looks very different than it has in the past. So it's a circular chart. This is just a small picture of it, but it's actually a little bit larger than this. But rather than being top down, the circular org chart is intended to represent a more collaborative and inclusive team. So we're really excited about the opportunity to be a district leadership team. And so we really have four structured groups. The ELT, which has a new face on it this year with David Stubblefield. So we're excited to invite Dr. Stubblefield to the executive leadership team. And then the cabinet is that inner circle with the addition of Dr. Dennis, Dr. Neal, and Dr. Ziegler. So we're excited to invite them to that cabinet team. And then the district leadership team is the circle that you see here, which will include anyone that works at the district office at the director level or above. And then, click one more time for me, Terry. And then this next one represents the entire district organizational team, including the entire Shawnee Mission administrative team, including building principals and associate principals and athletic directors. So we're really excited you will see many, many new faces. We started counting them today, and David and I were like, well, the list is probably too long to list tonight, but we are excited for a lot of new building leaders, associate principals, and athletic directors coming to us. So it's going to be available on the website coming soon, and then additionally, with the administrative yearbook where this is housed, we will have a demographic dashboard that will talk race and ethnicity, gender, degrees earned, years in the district. So we'll be adding that dashboard to that yearbook coming soon. So, thank you.
That's great, thank you. And that's a neat org chart. It's fun to see.
As we looked at the circular org chart, I said to Terry, I said, have you ever seen a circular org chart? And she goes, it's so funny you would say that, because she was organizing the history of Shawnee Mission. We have an org chart for every year. And in the early 80s, they had a circular org chart. So it was really interesting. It looks very different than this one, but there was one for Shawnee Mission. So it's kind of fun.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Well, at this moment, I understand Ms. Owsley wanted to add a note or two to this superintendent report, so I'm going to turn the microphone over to her.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. Board members typically don't speak during the superintendent report, but tonight is a special occasion. We are marking Dr. Fulton's last week in the district, and prior to the meeting, we held a reception to honor him and to thank him for his service with us. His retirement officially begins on July 1st, but this is our last board meeting with you here. So the team has put together something to express our thank you to you, and we will have them play the video now.
You guys are so good.
Everybody think where they were, get back to that position, here we go.
Hi, I'm Mike Fulton, and I have the privilege of serving as superintendent of the Shawnee Mission School District.
I think Dr. Fulton is a leader that is down to earth. He believes that everybody matters, and he makes a personal connection with everybody he meets.
You could tell he was a coach at heart. He was able to work with teams. He was able to build consensus with the team, and he was able to lead.
He is really great with kids, and I think the most important thing about Dr. Fulton's leadership is that kids are first.
All right, let's do it again. You guys are awesome.
One of Dr. Fulton's strengths is that he is warm and kind and genuine with everyone he interacts with. So from a kindergartner to a constituent to other elected leaders in the community, he really meets people where they're at.
Him being a part of this district has been a pillar basically for me. Him relating personally to me and making an effort to meet me and talk to me on a one-on-one conversation made me feel like my input was invaluable.
A story that stands out with Dr. Fulton about students is at the Lenexa Hills ceremony when we were opening up the school. He was giving a speech in front of everyone. In the middle of his speech, he stopped what he was talking about and walked over to our student section and just talked to the kids and said that this new building is for them and for their growth and for their learning and just how important they were to him.
From the cafeteria to the gym to your classrooms to the maker spaces, it's all about you.
So I am most appreciative of Dr. Fulton's vision to see forward, and just super proud of the work we've done around the strategic plan, which I really credit Dr. Fulton for having that vision and really getting us looking out 5 years, 10 years, 15, even 20 years, you will hear him say, and really looking for that North Star. So that's been really awesome for the Shawnee Mission School District.
For his very short time that he was here, he's going to leave a lasting impact. The strategic plan is probably going to be his biggest legacy. That along with the component of the deep equity work. I feel like our demographics in the Shawnee Mission School District has changed quite a bit in the last 10 years. And he did a nice job of recognizing that, and making sure we're all on the same page with all employees to embrace our new demographics, to make sure all of our students are successful, and to really take a look at how we can be all-inclusive of everyone.
Dr. Fulton, we're really going to miss you, but we want to all wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
You have done a wonderful job, and your fingerprints are all over the good works of this district.
I really appreciate your leadership and thank you for your time you've invested here in our school district, and I wish you well in your next adventures.
All the care and the attention that you put in, it's definitely appreciated, and we'll be missing you.
We really appreciate your time with us. We're so thankful that you came to the Shawnee Mission School District. It couldn't have been a better pick for our community to have you here. So thank you, best of luck, and enjoy your grandbaby.
Well, I don't know what to say about that. Thank you very much for all those kind words. Wasn't it just nice to see life normal in those videos? I don't really have any speech here, but I think I just want to share a couple things. First of all, to the board, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and serve as superintendent. It was my pleasure, and I'm going to miss you. This is a fantastic community. We care deeply about kids. That's what we're here to do. Schools are for learning. That's what we do. And you make that possible, so thank you for all your work. And to the staff who have been absolutely fantastic, particularly as we look over the last year during the pandemic. Everybody rode hard together to do the very best they could to make sure that the needs of every child was met. To the community, thank you for being engaged. Thank you for caring enough about Shawnee Mission to get involved and provide voice. But importantly, as we need to work together and find solutions. You know, one of the things that always strikes me in our world is that a lot of times we get wrapped up in adults with our issues. And at the end of the day, schools are very much about children and their learning. Everything we do needs to come back to them. And if we do that, and we do that well, then amazing things happen for learning for all children. The other thing that I'm reminded of is that very early on when I came here, I had a slide I showed. I talked about the changing demographics of America. The fact that one day the majority of Americans, probably around 2050 or so, the majority of Americans will be people of color. And what's important from a human perspective is that we value each other. There's not a person out, every single one of us matters. Every single person has inherent value, dignity, and worth, and deserves to be treated with deep respect. And we need to design schools where we see one another for who we are, and to the best of our ability, personalize that experience so that the needs of every child is met, no matter what their background. That's our call as public educators, and that's our opportunity. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve in Shawnee Mission, and I look forward to being a community member. For those of you that are listening or may not know, we had a granddaughter born recently, but she's in a different country as her father is serving in the Coast Guard and her mother's raising her, and so we get the opportunity to go see her, finally, now that Europe is opening up. So we're going to take that opportunity, but most importantly, we just want to be here and support Shawnee Mission any way that we can. I look forward to that. Thank you. I think we actually close this out with data. I don't know, somehow that's appropriate, isn't it? We've had a little shift in our in what we're able to do with our federal funds, known as ESSER 2 in this case. And basically, because of a change in the guidelines, we are adjusting how we're going to do our expenditure of our ESSER 2 funds. You can see that up here on the chart. We talked about this previously. But we are going to include a retention payment for all staff who meet the criteria to receive a retention payment of $600. That will occur in September sometime. So that'll be for staff who kind of went through the COVID year experience, are returning, and continue to be employees in Shawnee Mission. We're able to do that by drawing money, at least for this next year, away from the money we're going to put into HVAC and indoor air quality. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not focused on indoor air quality. That will remain a priority. But we'll pick up some of that through bonds, some through capital, and also through future ESSER 3 monies when they become available. So just want to give you that quick update so you knew.
Dr. Fulton, I might add any fallout money that we would have here. So if there's a category where we didn't spend the entire part that was budgeted, so if we had any fallout in these dollars, we would just automatically move that to the HVAC, because we've already submitted a plan that's been approved through the state. And so if we have those monies, we will move them towards HVAC.
And if I can close with this, I'm very excited, Dr. Hubbard, about you becoming superintendent. You're going to do a great job. I can tell you one thing. You know, there's a lot of shuffling of offices around, and she's been so kind, and we've both kind of gone through this before, but I finally had to go into her and say, you know, I've moved everything out of my office. You need to move your stuff in, because you've got other people waiting to move into your office. There's kind of a domino effect going on. And I do want to tell you this. The office looks much better. So I was like, this looks good. I like it. So anyway, congratulations to you. And I'm so excited about your superintendency.
Well, I'm not sure how we follow that particular report, but I guess we must. So we are all also looking forward to having you move into the realm of superintendency, Dr. Hubbard. So we are both sad and excited at the same time, which is an interesting place to be. We're moving on to our board reports. Ms. Borgman, do you have a SMAC PTA update for us this evening?
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Osley. Just on the clothing exchange, due to maintenance and construction, the clothing exchange will reopen on August 10th.
Thank you. Ms. Hembry, do you have an update from the Education Foundation?
Yeah, I was just going to share to save the date of September 8th. September 28th, 2021, we are back with the Fall Breakfast in person, which I know is a wonderful event that we all missed over the previous year. That'll be at the Overland Park Convention Center, September 28th, 2021.
Thank you. Reverend Guy, do you have an update for us from the KASB Board of Directors?
Yes, the KASB Board of Directors met in the southeast of Saline School District. That's the district of the outgoing president, Lori Blake. It was wonderful to get to see a school district in a very different context. The entire district is in one building, K through 12 plus administrative offices. And of course, the students weren't there. It was after school was out. But several of their teachers came back to share with the Board of Directors about the wonderful and unique programs that they run there. So a very different perspective from our district, but it was wonderful to see all the great things that they're doing there in a much, much smaller district. And then on Saturday of our meeting, the Kansas Education Commissioner, Randy Watson, came and spoke to us and gave us lots of great information, but I think the thing I took away from it most is that he shared that there are actually lots of really great things happening with education in the state of Kansas. And so often we focus on the things that aren't going as well as we want them to go and the things that aren't working as well as we want them to work. And of course, we've been digging ourselves out of the financial hole for so long that so many of us are weary, but he says, but there are so many things we should be celebrating too, and we need to get that message out to people because they're not hearing that part of the message. So he had a bunch of slides. I'm hoping that they're going to send those to us so I can pass them on to the rest of you to look at them and see them. But that was what our meeting was in the southeast of Saline School District. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Goodburn, do you have a Policy Review Committee update for us?
There's two items on your agenda later on in the meeting. 7.06 is a first read of BCBI, and 7.10 BDA is a second read of that policy later in the meeting. We do not have a July meeting scheduled for policy review.
Thank you. And Mr. Stratton, do you have a Finance and Facilities update for us tonight?
Our next meeting is in October, and in July we'll do some building tours. Those are the two things coming up.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes our board reports, and we move on to item 2.4, the board financial report, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Fulton and Mr. Russ. Oh, Mr. Knapp, sorry, Russ.
Yes, and Russell Knapp, our Chief Financial Officer, is going to provide us with our monthly board financial report.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Board. So tonight we have the board financial report as of May 31st for your review, but we're so late into this month. On Wednesday, we close our fiscal year for 2021. So business office is all excited. Everything's going very well so far. A couple things to note. We estimate about 1.8 million surplus at our May workshop. We'll probably be slightly higher than that because we have not came to a resolution on our February gas bill with Symmetry. So that's still outstanding. The last bill, the revised bill, was at $675,000. So that will carry forward in fund balances to next year, and then if we can get a resolution sometime in next fiscal year, then that would be paid from the fund balances that are carried forward. Okay. The other thing that we point out in May is also the $920,000 that we plan to set aside for the special ed personnel, the 12 FTE that came out of the IBB negotiation team from last year. So all in all, the fiscal year is going to shape up very nicely, and I'll have a more thorough report at our July board meeting after we close out all the books for this fiscal year. I wanted to mention a little bit about the food service fund because we were watching that closely all year. That's going to come out nicely. We're going to probably break even to about $50,000 to the good, so that was good. It helped when the volume, when we started coming to school in person and the volume picked up in lunches, so that helped cover the cost. ESSER 1, we talked about ESSER 2, but ESSER 1, we're going to wrap that up spending-wise for our allocation, the district's allocation, which was about $2.6 million, so we'll spend all that by June 30th, and then there'll be the private allocation that we still have to commit that piece, so that will stay open until they spend that, the private schools part. But our piece, we'll have that spent by June 30th. And that's all I had to report on that, if you had any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Russ? Reverend Guy.
Can you refresh our memory on was it the February gas bill that was the huge one? About what we anticipated that would be based on past years and what it was, and so now it's been lowered?
It was the February gas bill. It started out at $1.6 million. Then we had some discussions back and forth, and we got it to $675,000. And now they're kind of, Symmetry is working with the KCC group, or Kansas, I'm not thinking about commission, who they go through with Kansas Gas Service. So that's going through that process. And you know, James Secure, our attorney, is working with that. So we'll see if we can get a resolution next fiscal year. But it typically is about $40,000. So last year it was 40 grand. We spend $600,000 for the whole fiscal year for all district-wide. And in that 1 month, they're wanting to bill us $675,000.
But there are some legal and legislative people taking, I mean, we have our own attorney, but there's other lawsuits involved.
Yeah, I think the Attorney General's looking at it.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll just wait and see. And so have we paid a small amount on that bill?
Not for that month,
Okay.
but we are current on all the other months. So we have paid March, April, May. We're current on all months except for the February.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the Classlink presentation, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Fulton for that.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're going to have Drew Lane, who's the Executive Director of ICT, and Lindsay Stevenson, who's our Coordinator of Technology, Structural Technology for the district, join us for this to provide a presentation on Classlink.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Fulton. Really happy to have Lindsay here with us this evening. I would just want to open it for her. She has some slides for you to really talk about Classlink more in depth to give you an idea of what it does and what it can do. I just wanted to express a certain level of gratitude to Lindsay and the other departments that we worked very closely and collaboratively on this, and it's kind of it's a really refreshing, positive change in direction in the relationship between the academic side of the house and the operations side of the house. And so it's really nice to have the position that Lindsay is in. It's really nice to have Lindsay there. She's really good to work with, and a lot of eyes on this. And there was a lot of collaboration. Came to good, solid consensus on the product. And I think everybody on the team is really confident in the product moving forward. So, Lindsay has some slides for you.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Lindsay Stevenson, and I'm the new Coordinator of Instructional Technology, and so I work with curriculum and HR and ICT. So we've all kind of looked at this as opportunities for maybe consolidating some of the work of our teachers and making things a little more simplistic. Back in April, I think, Drew and I simultaneously were looking at a similar, like the same product. We kind of came across, he's like, well, have you seen Classlink? And I said, well, I was just looking at that too. So we started having meetings together and kind of looking deeper. We've had 8, I think, well, now probably 12 meetings with Classlink trying to see if this product would fit our district. So one of the main things that it does is a single sign-on program. Currently, we have different logins for textbooks. We have different logins for Canvas. We have different logins for all the different access things that our students and our teachers are using. Today, a teacher emailed me and said, how do I find my new social studies resources? And I was like, well, maybe we'll be able to tell you in one place, but right now I had to defer them to their curriculum director. So this has just kind of been an ongoing issue for students and staff. So what it will do is make everything accessible in one place in their Classlink web browser. So all students K-12, it is iPad friendly. We've had lots of conversations with them about how it will work with a mobile device. Elementary users have a QR code, so they scan their QR code in front of the iPad, and then if the teacher wants them to, they can have a picture as their second authentication for extra protection for their data and information. It does supply a lot of analytics, so on our side with ICT and my position, it will help us see what's being used on every district device. So even outside of Classlink, we can see what are students doing, how long are they spending time in those programs. If I see that there's a digital resource that we've bought with curriculum funds that's being underused, I know that probably needs some more professional development so that we're getting our money out of that product. It also customizes our start and end dates with right now when it syncs with Skyward, we're kind of locked into that start date with Skyward. So teachers aren't getting access to some of their resources because Skyward says school starts August 15th. So what it does is it creates a buffer so we can go in and Drew and Russ and I can go in and have a start date be July 1st, or we can have it be as early as June. But we can create a buffer to give teachers earlier access to their planning resources so that they're not waiting until school starts. It also increases security. So right now we have a lot of buildings that use, especially specifically elementary, that use one password for their building for a lot of programs because it just is easier. This would allow us to have a unique password for every student in all of those programs, but all they need to know is their Microsoft credential. Well, actually, if you're K through 6, you scan your little QR code. And that's all they need is their QR code. And the teachers can print those. So if they lose them, it's a quick print and it's just pulled up like their roster. So that's kind of what it is. So as we move into some of the problems it's going to solve is the multiple passwords, the multiple resources. We have over 50 resources between library and curriculum alone, and that's not even counting like what teachers are using outside of that in the educational technology field. So this allows them to all be in one place. Teachers can add Flipgrid, they can add Edpuzzle, they can add their own apps through a library. So if they're using something frequently, they can add that to their library for their students. So they're still kept in one place. We talked about the password security, and then those lock and open dates are a big issue that curriculum's dealt with moving forward. They've just had, that was the one thing they came to me and said, can you fix this so that our resources aren't locked? And I was like, I will do my best. And so this is the problem this is the solution that we found for that problem. It would really reduce for our elementary teachers and our elementary coaches the time it takes to get a new student logged on to everything. Right now they have to log them into every single program when that kid starts, and this would be done at the district level through ICT, and the student would just need their district credentials only. So that would reduce their time, and it would increase security as well, which is always something we're looking at and trying to keep our students aware of their personal data. So another student can't pick up their iPad and get into their stuff. And we had a few, I'm sure they've had several instances of that, but even with Canvas, students would pick it up and they were easily accessing things. So this would just keep that a little safer. So I think overall, it would also uniform our rostering processes, which are many different ways right now. It would provide us access for our paraprofessionals, our innovation coaches, all of our aides that might need access to resources. It would increase that ability for them. And right now we have all kinds of different ways that we're fixing problems to get that to happen, and this would make it very simplified. Especially with the turnover that we have now, this is the perfect time because it would be systematic. It would be something that doesn't change by the person that's in the role. So that's pretty much, I was supposed to probably talk longer, but I talk fast. Do you have any questions for me? It's it's not a product that's new necessarily. Surrounding districts all are using it. I did meet with them as well just to see problems they've had and things that they've come across. And there's a few things we know we're not going to do like those districts, and a few things that we're taking notes from and we're going to try and do to make our experience unique for us.
Thank you. Are there follow-up questions? Dr. Sinclair? Oh, yeah. I still.
I appreciate the tool to provide easier, secure access for our educators so that they can maximize the resources at hand. So that's, I really like that about this tool. You mentioned the increase in analytics. That's also allowing the district to understand which kinds of resources are being utilized well and are potentially of value and renew and those kinds of things. Can you speak to when you talked about being able to understand how our students are using that and staff? I would assume that that would be an aggregate, that kind of information, so that just speak to the data privacy piece to that. So
I'm thinking of
Perhaps.
that piece that the teachers can see, and do you want to speak to that a little bit, or do you want me to? Okay. He's kind of the security guy, so I'm going to default. But I can speak to what a teacher can see. Like, a teacher can log into their roster, and when we look at this, I'm like, oh, that would have been so great for COVID. But they can log into the roster and see, like, was a student on YouTube for 4 hours, or was a student in their online math book for 2 hours. And so they can see the specific programs that were being used by which students and for how long on, like, a graph, basically.
Yep.
And so on a district level, it would be more by program. So I would be able to see, like, how many people are utilizing Canvas right now and at what. I could even break it down by secondary and elementary. I'm also, just in my new role, curious about the outside programs that are being used, because I would like to see, on a program standpoint on the district level, like, well, what are the other programs being used, and are they being used to their fullest? Like, I know there's a lot of programs that are easy to use on a surface level, but if we have a lot of people using them, then I can start to train them to use them to a deeper level, to collect data, to personalize learning. And those are kind of my two focuses for next year. But on a teacher level, they see a lot of that data, but I don't think it's any more private than what they would see in their grade. I mean, but on a district level, we would see more of the larger picture of programs.
Thank you.
Mr. Stratton?
On slide 3, it shows an example of the sign-in on there. I wanted to get clarification that would we be also giving them the option to use those other third-party, like Facebook and the others? Or is that just a template?
That's their template. We did not have our setup when I made these slides. We just got like a demo of what it would look like. It's only going to be our Microsoft credentials as they've used for their Skyward and Canvas.
Great.
So it's just one place, and it will be their Microsoft credentials.
I might add that those are the credentials that we create and manage. So they're not even second party. They're strictly first party credentials.
Great, which kind of goes to my other question, and that would be including Google, because sometimes people use the Google sign-on to get into other places too. So if they have a Google account, that wouldn't allow them to sign in. They've got to go only through the sign-in.
So the relationship between this and Google is kind of interesting. The short answer to that question is that there is kind of a two-step process to authenticate to both places. Once it's done, the Google authentication can be more streamlined.
So they'll log into this with Microsoft, but their Google Drive will be there. They'll have to log into that one time, and they have what's called a password locker, and then it will always be accessible to them. So they can still use programs that have, like, right now, I'm having to gather, like, what programs we use, and I mean, I didn't know that as a new person in the district, at this level of the district. So, depending on what they've used to log in, that's kind of behind the scenes, and then we access it all through just Microsoft.
Okay.
Dr. Sinclair, if I could back up once, back to your question, something came to mind as we were talking through this. One thing I want to make sure that we emphasize is this really is intended for academic resources. There are internal resources that we don't intend to publish here because it would make it entirely too easy for an interested and unauthorized person to gain access to ERP resources, student information system resources, those types of things. Along that thread, then, to answer your question more specifically, is yes, a classroom teacher would be able to see specific data in a disaggregated sense because they have a FERPA reason for doing so. But at the district level, it is much more aggregated analytics so that we're not going to have FERPA problems, and we're going to have data privacy problems with that.
I appreciate you explaining that.
I'm not seeing any further hands. Thank you for your presentation. It is appreciated.
Thank you.
Our next item is 4.1, approval of the consent items. I'll seek a motion for approval.
So move, Goodburn.
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you both. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Since Mary doesn't have her microphone, I'm assuming you heard her say second, Terry? I stole it. Okay, I stole her microphone. What? Oh, yes. I apologize. Were there any no votes on the consent agenda items? Okay, hearing none, that passes unanimously. On the item 6, the consent bond agenda, I'll seek a motion for approval.
So move, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman.
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry.
I think you have it, actually. You've got it taken care of in the.
Oh, it already went?
Yeah,
Oh.
you did both of them, fell swoop, so.
You already approved all this, you guys. You're fine. Moving right along. Action item 7.1, approval of resources for interventions to support Tier 2 and Tier 3. I'll seek a motion in a second.
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Dr. Fulton, do you have one or two words to say on this one?
Actually, I'm going to defer to Dr. Hubbard.
So these are all resources that we use traditionally, and it's just a large chunk put together, as you can see in the motion, but I would entertain any questions, and also Dr. Dennis and Dr. Grumman are both here if there are specific questions about a particular resource.
I am seeing none at this time, so I will call the votes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Item 7.2, again, I will seek a motion and a second on approval of our federal ESSER 2 funds to provide the $600 retention payment to all qualifying SMSD employees.
Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn.
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. Dr. Fulton did cover this in his superintendent report. Is there anything else you need to add?
No.
Are there any questions from board members? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 7.3, approval to exceed the revenue neutral rate. I'll get a motion in a second, and then Dr. Fulton, if you can speak to it.
I move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair.
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. I'll give it to you, Dr. Fulton.
Thank you, and I'm actually going to have Mr. Knapp do an overview for us, if you would, please.
Yes, so the revenue neutral rate is brand new to us. This was approved or passed this spring in the legislative session. It was the repeal of Senate Bill 13, which was the tax lid for cities and counties, and then excluded school districts. And then House Bill 2104 came along, and they included the school districts. So this step for tonight is your approval to exceed the revenue neutral rate. So that document is attached on board doc. Johnson County calculates that, and it was 50.033 mill rates. They sent it to us, and then by July 20th, we have to tell them the estimated amount that we're going to exceed that. So tonight, I guess I'm just asking for your approval to exceed 50.033. We're currently at about 52.4. Okay.
Are there any questions for Mr. Knapp?
Yeah, 52.351. So that's what we're at.
Okay.
So we will, once, we haven't even got, we just got an email tonight that we got the budget documents. So we'll complete those, get an estimated mill rate, and we will send that to Johnson County by July 20th on that amount that we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
I'm not seeing any questions. I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Item 7.4, approval to purchase general lines of insurance coverage. I'll seek a motion in a second.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton.
Second, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Dr. Fulton, do you have a couple words on this one?
I'm going to have Mr. Knapp give a quick overview.
Yes, so this is our general lines of insurance for property, liability, fiduciary, cyber, and crime. We broker this each year. The rates we've been pretty stable on our rates, but this year they considerably went up. It was a very tough market. So the property rate itself went up 39%, just the rate per 100, and then we also had some increase because the value of our property also increases. Another notable one was the cyber. We were at 10,000 and it tripled to 30,000, which is still doable. We pay that out of our special liability fund. So we do have that opportunity to pay it out of a dedicated fund for liability outside of our operating funds. So that's always that's a good thing. The increase is not, but the ability to have the special liability fund. And I do have Tom McGuire here from CBIZ that is in the audience that brokered this. So if you do have any questions, please ask, and we'll see if we can answer those.
Are there any questions this evening? Ms. Goodburn.
So 39% on the property. What, can you give any information about why? Or, oh, here he comes. Is that normal for, is that really high?
It's not normal for us.
Yeah.
No, that, unfortunately, we've entered a very hard market, and the more property that is owned by any individual entity, the worse the renewals have been. So our clean, large districts, we work with probably 6 or 7 large districts in the metro. So the clean ones like Shawnee Mission that have had zero claims really, we're seeing right about that 40% on the increase. So those that are having claims, we're seeing 50, 60, and 70%. It's being driven by losses countrywide. So in 2019, there was 21 individual claims in the United States that accounted for at least $1 billion of paid out insurance claims, insurance dollars. In 2020, we did a little better than that, and there was only 20 of those, so we got one better. So it's just the kind of culmination of all the money that's being paid out in the insurance industry, and they're just spreading that rate out across everyone. Now, one of the things that I will point out on our property is we were able to hold the deductibles the same. So the deductibles did not move up from where they were last year, which, believe it or not, was a big win. We thought we were going to be getting at one point a 40% rate increase with deductibles going from $250 on the wind and hail to potentially $1 million or $2 million. And so we thought we were going to get double hit on that. So the fact that we were able to keep deductibles down and similar to, actually the same as they were last year, was actually a big win. So we are, when we benchmarked it across the districts in the city that would be peer districts, our rate is right in line with other districts, if not better, in most cases, and our deductibles are way lower than what we would see at like-sized districts.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Are there any further follow-ups? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.5, approval of the revised calendar for the 21-22 school year. I'll get a motion in a second, and we'll get an update as to why we're revising it.
So moved. Oh, second, Guy.
Well, that was very rapid. So I think that was Mr. Stratton who moved and Reverend Guy who seconded. Thank you. And Dr. Fulton?
Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Hubbard.
Absolutely. So this is revision. 2 items that were actually missed on the original. October 13th is a national testing day for secondary schools, mostly high school. It only pertains to high school in our case, and we have participated in this for multiple years. It was out last year due to COVID, and then when we redid the calendar, we just failed to put it in there. So October 13th is resurfacing as a testing day for high school. And then in the afternoon, teachers will participate in building-directed professional learning, and kids would have a half day. And then July 5th was not marked as a national holiday that our offices would be closed, so we marked that. And then with the addition of Juneteenth being added as a national holiday, we have added that, so it would mean that June 20th, our offices would be closed. It's a little different than most holidays for us, but it would impact all of our summer programming, and then district offices would be closed.
Are there any questions for Dr. Hubbard? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? It passes unanimously. Our next item is 7.6. It is the first reading for revised board policy BCBI. Because this is a first reading, we are not working it this evening. The procedure for working it will be to bring our amendments at the second reading, and we will vote on the amendments and have an opportunity to discuss proposed amendments, and then vote on the policy itself. And then if you would like to have council look at your amendments for review prior to the meeting, you can submit them to Dr. Hubbard tonight, and she will get them to Rachel for her review and comments back, so that we can have all of the discussion at the dais on the amendments, and they'll have already been reviewed. So we don't vote on this one. I won't seek a motion or a second, and then I can turn it over to Sarah to provide us with any additional information if there is any.
No additional information.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next item on the
Can we
agenda.
make comments on BCBI? Are we?
Well, we're not working it tonight. That's the first reading. So if you'd like to make a comment, you can, but we're not
Okay.
voting, and we're
Okay,
not
yeah,
working. It's just the introduction of it to the record.
Yeah, based on our discussion from the last meeting, I'd like to make a few additional discussions. So just in watching back the meeting, our last board meeting, again, I really feel like we have two issues going on with policy BCBI. First, my concerns regarding the policy. The policy states the board will meet for up to 30 minutes for the purpose of public comment prior to regularly scheduled board meetings. My concern with that is there may be issues, very serious, controversial, and important issues where 30 minutes may not be adequate. I have strong concerns about creating a policy limiting the amount of time for public comment. As elected officials, we should welcome public comment, and sometimes 30 minutes is not enough. A board member stated at our last meeting, the movement to take public comment out of the meeting formalizes the 30-minute window for public comment. We would be here until very late in the evening because the business of the board wouldn't start until late. I would suggest, as part of overseeing a district with taxpayer dollars, listening to public comment, however long, is very much part of the business of the board. The second issue I have with the policy is its intent. The intent of the policy is for the district to stop live streaming public comment out of fear YouTube will pull our meetings. In other words, we are giving YouTube the power to censor us. I spoke with a local expert who works exclusively with public school districts, and they raised a good point. Is it okay for a public school system funded by taxpayer dollars, a branch of local government, to rely on a private platform such as YouTube to have the power, control, and ability to censor government meetings? The comment that got our meeting pulled from YouTube on May 17th was medical misinformation given by an elected official during public comment. We shouldn't be concerned about getting pulled from YouTube only because of public comment. Who knows who will be on this board in the future? If this is really all about the ability to live stream on YouTube, we need to think bigger than just public comment. At our last meeting, a board member stated public comment is, quote, hijacking platforms to share alternative messages. If we're trying to tell a story, why would we give our platform away? A similar quote from another board member, I don't feel the taxpayers want us to propagate or amplify messaging to this board, end quote. I would say and suggest that YouTube has hijacked us. I do not believe local government should give a for-profit company the power and ability to censor us, nor do I want us to be put in the position where our community thinks we are putting out propaganda. Additionally, at our last meeting, it was mentioned there are other ways the community can contact us: letters, emails, phone calls, and grocery store conversations. Prior to joining this board, I loved hearing public comment. I often tuned in as I was making dinner or sitting in a parking lot waiting to pick up my kids from practice. I enjoyed hearing different perspectives, thoughts, and views. I didn't always agree with what was said, but I felt it was important to listen. Just like we teach in our classrooms, we need to listen to others and be open to other perspectives. The boardroom has finite seating and parents are busy. Public comment sometimes shapes and forms how I'm going to vote. If you take public comment out of just that, the public, you are potentially depriving the opportunity for parents to hear other perspectives, which may help them form different opinions. And it may shed light on why board members voted the way they did. Again, by taking public comment out of the public eye, we run the risk of being viewed as propagating our message, lacking in transparency, depriving our community the opportunity to hear diverse perspectives, and making it okay for a private platform to censor a government body. The solution is simple. We should use another platform. I felt like that was an important message to have us all marinate on prior to our vote next meeting. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
Can I ask a point of procedural inquiry?
Sure.
I understand that we're not working any amendments this evening. I also know that we're reviewing policy BDA about how we will amend and adopt policies. And if we have a policy or a rule we intend to follow as a board that we aren't going to adopt amendments on a first read, I think we need to actually put that in writing instead of That's not a rule I've heard of until today.
Well, the first read is not typically when we work an item. So, I'm happy to accept amendments when we work that policy, when we get to it, if you'd like to raise an amendment for that.
On policy BDA? It just feels a little bit like we make up the rules as we go, and I don't know why we wouldn't be able, at the last meeting, there was a lot of conversation about being able to bring amendments at the upcoming meeting. I don't know why we wouldn't want to accept amendments now and give the public more time to see and review the policy as it's more likely to look.
Well, we thought, at the last meeting, we decided we would have the 2 meetings and we wouldn't vote this meeting on it so that we would have an opportunity to get the public comments. So we delayed the vote so that we would have a second reading. We would do a first and second instead of doing a first and final tonight.
I guess, so where would I find these procedures?
I think we follow general parliamentary procedure because we don't follow Robert's rules specifically.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Okay, well, we'll move on to item 7.7, approval of the SRO contract with the City of Shawnee. We'll get a motion in a second and turn it over to Dr. Fulton.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Is there a second? Second, Sinclair. Thank you, Dr. Sinclair, and we'll turn it over to you, Dr. Fulton.
Periodically, we bring these to the board for approval. This contract is with the City of Shawnee to provide us with SROs to work in our buildings and support the work of our educators as we work with our students.
Okay. Are there any questions for Dr. Fulton?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How many districts, police departments do we contract with for SROs?
I'd have to go back and look at the exact number. I know that we have at least 2 other departments that we contract with. There may be some more. At Overland Park, Prairie Village are 2. I have to go back and check and see if there are others.
And can you help me understand what rules they're enforcing within our buildings? Is it the city that they are on the law enforcement for? Is it building or district policies? What rules are they enforcing?
Well, they are there, the SROs are there in support of the school district as we work with our students. They, at the end of the day, they are officers that work for their respective police departments, but they work in partnership with us as we work to build relationships with students, solve problems, build bridges of understanding to address issues both within the school and sometimes outside the school. You know, they might visit homes on occasion to provide support to students. So they're there mainly as a support mechanism for us to help us as we work through issues with students and their families.
I have other questions. I don't know if other folks do.
Okay. Are there questions from anyone else at this time?
Do they go through deep equity training, or SROs?
There is specific training that they go through. And I believe that we're going to have a detailed report for you in
April of 2022.
April of next year. I know it's a long ways off, but to provide a more detailed report on the role of the SROs. We've done some work on that, but to answer your question, yes, there is specific training that they go through, and we'd have to get you a list of all the training that they're involved in.
Ms. Emery, do you have additional questions?
How much of their training is done by the police department they come from versus Shawnee Mission?
A lot of the training that they receive is done by us. I'm sure there's also training that they do with their police department, but we engage the SROs in training, and that's true also of our district resource officers as well.
Do we have data about how many arrests they've done over the previous year, or who they have arrested of our student body?
That is certainly data that we have available. Of course, we need to be careful about that data because it's private to individual students, but those are big picture trend data certainly we can look at. I will say this past year was unusual, and probably that data is going to have to be, that data is going to be of very limited value in terms of looking at long-term trend data. But you know, you can look at that data, and there's other data you can look at in terms of the overall safety in the school. That's a consideration. But also what other interventions are in place. You have SROs, but they're working as a team. You have district resource officers, they're working as a team. Counselors, social workers, teachers, administrators are all part of this team that are responsible for helping to meet the needs of all of our kids, and everybody plays their own unique role. So I don't know, Mr. Gilhouse or Dr. Hubbard, if you want to add anything to that, but that's, in essence, their role is to support the mission of the school district, support students in their learning, build relationships. And you know, the great thing about SROs is this, is that when things happen at the school, they're there, they know the kids, they've built those relationships, and they're able to handle those issues in a way far better than somebody coming in from the outside to deal with an issue that we might have in our schools from time to time. And so that relationship building is a big part of their job. I think that really helps make a difference.
They also go into the classrooms and teach several classes throughout social studies units, government questions and law classes. They also serve as a resource for students who may be having questions, maybe issues outside of school, and these SROs are able to work them through what the process looks like. They serve, again, as a resource for these students that come and talk to them, and hopefully build the continued relationships.
I would just add, one of the SROs was a basketball coach at Trail Ridge Middle School, and that was, I mean, they just really go above and beyond. I know, I do think it would be, I'm very curious to see, you know, just some data surrounding the SROs and arrest rates, and just, you know, I appreciate we're doing so many program evaluations, and I think this would be, I'm looking forward to the one in April on this, because I know it's a big one. I believe the governor released some recommendations around SROs. I'd be curious to see, you know, how in line we are with her recommendations as well. Yeah, thank you.
Do you have further questions, or?
No, I just want to preface my vote by saying that I hear a lot of wonderful things from a lot of our teachers and principals about the SROs that they have in their buildings, but I also acknowledge the year we've lived through as a country, and I acknowledge that this board released a statement that we would use our voices and our influence to reduce violence against Black lives, and we don't have any data in front of us to tell us what our SROs are really looking like in our schools. We don't have any information from students directly or parents or teachers about that experience. So absent some answers to some hard questions, it's really hard for me to vote yes on continuing to have SROs in our schools without having hard numbers and data and information, hearing directly from any of those teachers or those SROs. Or I don't know what kind of training they're receiving. I don't know what kind of use of force policies we're asking them to abide by. So it's hard for me to stand behind this particular item right now.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments? Dr. Sinclair.
I guess I would like to add to that in looking at kind of just the background of the information on. I'd like to extend my trust in the administration to implement programs and utilize resources and support in alignment with our strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments from board members at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will call. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. That item passes 6-1. The next item on our agenda is the approval of a resolution for gun safety, item 7.8, and I will turn it over to Reverend Guy to read the resolution.
Thank you, and I just do want to note that this is in alignment with our legislative platform that we passed earlier this year. Proclamation declaring June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Month. This proclamation declares the month of June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Month in the Shawnee Mission School District to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence. Whereas June is National Gun Violence Awareness Month, and whereas every day more than 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, alongside more than 230 who are shot and wounded. And on average, there are more than 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries, And whereas Kansas has an average of 401 gun deaths every year, with a rate of 13.9 deaths per 100,000 people. Kansas has the 22nd highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is a district's responsibility, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people that shouldn't have them, and whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than a year of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Further, we remind our community that the district will continue to provide gun locks free of charge to community members and encourage all community members to store their guns safely, securely, and out of the reach of children. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Shawnee Mission School Board declares the month of June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Month. We encourage all schools to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives.
Thank you. I'll seek a motion and a second for approval of the resolution.
So move Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms.
Goodburn. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Any discussion on the resolution prior to a vote? Hearing none, I will call. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 7.9, the 2021-22 contract renewal for the supplemental transportation for McKinney-Vento foster and special education students. I'll seek a motion in a second.
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair.
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. Dr. Fulton, do you have a couple words on this one?
Yeah, just very briefly, each year we do a contract renewal to make sure that our homeless students have access to school, and that we contract out with vendor or vendors to make sure that that happens. And that's what you have before you tonight.
Are there any questions on this item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That item passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is item 7.10, approval of revised board policy BDA, developing and adopting policy. This is the second reading. I'll get a motion in a second, and we can discuss and hear amendments.
I'll move approval, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. I will open it up for discussion or any comments from Ms. Goodburn to lead us.
I just say that we took the suggestions that were given and reworked the policy at our early June, sorry, I don't know the date, maybe the 3rd meeting, and the revised one is what you see here. I believe it's the underlined red line that you see there.
Thank you.
It's a change.
I'll open it up for discussion. Are there any questions?
Heather, it seems like, is there a standard practice that we don't accept amendments on a first read that you want to incorporate into this?
We do follow general parliamentary procedure. I'm not sure which policy that is in, but we do have a policy that specifies that we follow general parliamentary procedure and not Robert's rules. I guess I will defer to Ms. Goodburn to ask, as the policy chair, do you think we need to work something else into this, or should I ask Rachel? I'm comfortable with the language of this, and it's my understanding with parliamentary procedure, the second read is when you work a bill. So if you would like to submit an amendment to do so, I'm happy to vote on one. I don't have an amendment for it.
I don't know which policy references that we use parliamentary procedure. In our board docs, I'm not seeing it, if it exists.
Which policy is it that says we do not use Robert's rules? Has that been updated since the last year or so?
Oh, it's in there.
It's in there?
It's,
okay.
I'm sure it's under board, the B series somewhere.
Okay.
It just feels to me like this policy BDA doesn't capture the process we're using, because it doesn't say anything about amendments not being able to come forward at a first read.
If you'd like to make an amendment, I'm happy to have you make an amendment.
I'm happy to make an amendment. We can amend policy BDA as considered by the board to make note that The current language says that no action shall be taken following a first read. Do we want that to say no action or amendments on a policy proposal will be taken after a first read? I'd like to make an amendment that we amend policy BDA as being second read before the board tonight to note that no action or amendments on a policy proposal will be taken after a first read.
Okay, is there a second?
I'm going to clarify, well, go ahead.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a second. And then Mr. Stratton?
I'm looking at BDA as proposed. Where is the amendment that you're making?
Sorry, at the final paragraph of the policy, so where it says no action on a policy proposal will be taken after a first read, final paragraph of the adoption and amendment procedures section.
Okay, great. And then the proposed language to that for the amendment?
Is to add no action or amendment on a policy proposal will be taken after a first read.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
And just to clarify, I'm sorry, but I got lost in the conversation. This is a second read to which we are going to take final action on today.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So has there been an amendment on the floor?
Yes, and it was seconded and discussed. But we can have additional discussion. We can table it and.
Sorry, I didn't know if it was a motion to second on BDA in the second reading or a motion to second on the amendment.
Well, we had a motion and a second on the policy so that we could discuss it, and now we've had a motion and a second on the amendment so we could discuss that, and then we can vote on the amendment, and then we can vote on the final policy.
Thank you. That's the part I wasn't clear.
Yeah. Are there any further comments or questions on the amendment?
So basically, you're wanting to add no action or amendment on a policy proposal will be taken after the first read. So basically, to be consistent with what was said during BCBI. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And so we wouldn't amend these after the first read, you couldn't, and then any changes would be then done at the second read meeting, correct? Yes.
So typos, things like that, we would just log for as well.
And just to take a giant step back, being on the policy committee, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, just for clarification, really the purpose of this was just so as board members, we have a better understanding of how to go about, the process of proposing policy, right? And so I think just trying to get real granular is maybe not a bad thing, being relatively new to the board still. So I just wanted to kind of take a step back and have us kind of think about, okay, the why behind this policy and how it fits into the discussion we had with BCBI as it relates to this specific policy.
Okay, well,
What do we do in the case, question, what do we do in the case of something that needs to be done on a first read?
Well, are you thinking with regards to like a first and final read?
Yeah, a first and final read.
Well,
If no amendment can be done after a first read, or
I think
what if it's on a first and final and there needs to be a minor amendment or something like that?
Well, I think that would probably be a problem if it was a first and final, because you would need to be able to amend it because it's a final.
I mean, I'm saying, what if there was like a typo in, or something like that, and it's a first and final read and there's no opportunity to, no action or amendment on a policy proposal will be taken after the first read, unless the policy proposal is minor and does not include substantive changes. And that's when we can do first and final, when we do that. I'm just wondering. I mean, I'm
Point of clarification along with that. So is there, so in clarifying no action or no amendment, what was the concern? What were we, can you speak more to the concern? Was it about clarification of what the expectations are? Is it enough to do clarification without amendment?
I guess it's a surprise to me that I can't bring an amendment on BCBI tonight, and it seems like that is an unwritten rule somewhere, and I would like to make it a written rule somewhere.
Well, we don't vote on an amendment until we have a motion and second on the item that we're voting on, because the amendments don't. Sorry. The amendments don't come until you've made a motion to move it and second it, and then you discuss the amendments as we're doing right now. And so we're not voting on BCBI tonight. It was a first reading to put it into the record so that the public could read the underlying foundational policy, and then our amendments can be brought at the subsequent reading, at the second reading, and we can vote on the amendments once it's on the floor for discussion as the board.
I just want that process shared somewhere, because I think it seems to me that if a policy comes before this board, whether it is a first read or a final read or a second read, whatever you want to call it, if we as a governing body have changes we want to propose or make to that policy, I didn't know there was a timing issue of it needing to not be changed at the first versus the second. And if that is the case, then I think we should put it in writing somewhere, because it feels like it's just a difficult system to maneuver. I feel like there's a lot of unwritten rules that would be worth clarifying into the process.
President Owsley, two things. The policy on rules of order is BCBF. So
Thank you.
You may want to have that at some point. In regards to first and final reading, I would just encourage you all to think about that, because I was thinking back to a time, I believe it was even this past year, where the State Department, actually it was the spring before, where they came out and said we could reduce our graduation requirements to the state's 21. And I believe that was a first and a final read because of the timing of the situation. So I would encourage you guys to think long and hard about not being able to do a first and final read at the same time, because there will be emergency situations that would need to be considered.
What is the option? I know you had mentioned an option to table this. Is that, could we, just to get really granular and clarify some things with Rachel and maybe cross-reference BCBF? How do we go about tabling something when there's been an amendment? And that's,
So you could make a motion to table, and if you get a second and we vote on it and the motion to table passes, then the item would be tabled, and we could then bat it back to the policy committee and then have additional discussion on it, and it could come back to the board. And that would be the process for tabling.
do we need to vote on Ms. Hembree's first, since it's been, or can I make the motion to table it right now?
I think you can make the motion to table it right now, and then that would cease the motion on the amendment, and then it would also, that would table the amendment, I guess, and then we would seek a motion to table the policy itself.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to table this for the policy committee to review again.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor on the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed to tabling it?
Yes.
I'm tabling. I oppose the tabling.
I do too.
Okay, so that was 2 in opposition. So the motion to table passes on the amendment, and we'll seek a motion to table, or I'm not seeking the motion, but if you have a motion to table the policy itself, you can make that motion now and get a second on that, and then we can move from there.
So point of clarification, I'm sorry.
You tabled the amendment, just to make sure we're
Got it.
procedurally
Yep,
tabling
so I
everything.
make a motion to table the policy.
Okay, is there a second to table the policy?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Yes.
Okay, I think I had 3 nays, but I'm just clarifying, I'm looking at my nays. Okay, and I had 4 to table, I believe. Okay, so the motion is tabled. I know the policy committee is not meeting in the month of July, so that will be bumped to August. Or it'll be bumped to our next meeting. Okay. All right, our next item on the agenda is item 7.11, approval to renew Moisel Manager MDM subscription.
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair.
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Embry. All those, Dr. Fulton, do you have any comments on this item?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? No, that passes unanimously. Item 7.12, bid 21-017 for 4 utility trucks. We'll seek a motion to approve.
So moved, Hembry.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Borgman?
Thank you. Do you have any comments on this item, Dr. Fulton?
No, this is a standard replacement of current trucks that we have. The question came up about sustainability, and we spent quite a bit of time on that back in December of 19 and January of 20. Actually, I believe it was January 13th, maybe, 2020 meeting where we kind of talked about our approach to sustainability of trucks. One of the issues is on sustainability. For example, think about electric trucks, is availability. They're just coming onto the market. And most of them at this point, in terms of our uses, sit around half-ton trucks and vans. Most of the trucks that we have on here primarily involve anywhere from 3/4 ton to 2.5 ton trucks. And currently, at least in terms of our access to those vehicles, there's not really any sustainability options at this point. So that's something that we can look at down the road, we'll look at down the road. But as a reminder too, when we get into sustainability solutions, a lot of this goes back to fuel. Fuel could be in the form of electric charging stations, which you'd have to build that infrastructure that has a cost associated with it. We looked at natural gas vehicles. That has a pretty serious limitation on access to fueling stations. So think about, for example, you're moving snow early in the morning, you're running low on fuel, you've got to drive a long distance to get to a refueling station at a point in time where you just need to be going, because time is of the essence to get parking lots cleared and so on. So that's, when it comes to these trucks, again, we'll look at sustainability as a long-term goal, but right now these are up for your approval, and they meet the need of the district by getting some replacements done that are essential to do.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Fulton on this item?
I thank you for the clarification on sustainability. That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Passes 7-0. Item 7.13, approval of administrative salaries. I'll seek a motion in a second.
So approval, Sinclair?
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Embry. Dr. Fulton, do you have a couple comments on this?
I do. Given that negotiations has concluded, subject to ratification by the members of Shawnee Mission NEA, we're going ahead moving forward with providing raises to staff. We've already done that for classified staff, did that at the previous meeting. And this is simply a continuation of that process, providing administrators with a 1.45% raise to the base, except in cases where we're making market adjustments as appropriate. So that's what this recommendation involves.
Are there any questions for Dr. Fulton? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Passes 7-0. Item 7.14, this is approval of a resolution requesting assistance from the Kansas Association of School Boards. I will seek a motion in a second, and then Dr. Sinclair, will you read the resolution? Sure. Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Go ahead, Dr. Sinclair.
A resolution requesting assistance from the Kansas Association of School Boards.
Mike. Oh, here.
Resolution requesting assistance from the Kansas Association of School Boards. Whereas on May 28, 2021, 2 district parents filed petitions under Senate Bill 40 in the District Court of Johnson County, Kansas. Whereas parents' Senate Bill 40 petitions sought to contest the district's cloth mask requirement for students, which is a mitigating measure included as a part of the district's school reopening plan. Whereas the district's school reopening plan was approved by the Board of Education via a resolution on July 27, 2020. Whereas on June 1, 2021, the district filed a motion to dismiss the Senate Bill 40 petitions on the basis that the petitions were untimely filed, that Senate Bill 40 could not be applied retroactively, and that the matter was moot. Whereas on June 8, 2021, the Honorable David W. Hauber issued an order on the district's motion to dismiss, which raised questions regarding the constitutionality of Senate Bill 40 and which pursuant to KSA 75-764 provided notice to the Kansas Attorney General and an opportunity to appear and be heard. Whereas the Attorney General elected to intervene in the action and on June 23, 2021, filed a brief regarding the constitutionality of Senate Bill 40. Whereas Senate Bill 40 is a piece of legislation that impacted all Kansas public school districts with regard to their efforts to safely operate schools and to keep students safe and staff safe during COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the Kansas Association of School Boards, KASB, is a non-for-profit organization dedicated to serving members of governing boards for unified school districts. Whereas the district is a member of KASB, and whereas KASB Board of Directors Policy AC Article 4, Section 3 addresses give me the, Latin pronunciation, I should know that. Thank you. Amicus curiae briefs and states where assistance in the form of continuing consultant services as set forth in 4.3 is needed, a participating board may initiate a request for such assistance by transmitting a certified copy of the resolution requesting assistance to the trustees. Be it hereby resolved by the Board of Education of Unified School District number 512, Johnson County, Kansas, that the Board of Education requests assistance from KSB, specifically that KSB file an amicus curiae brief in Butler et al. Versus Shawnee Mission School District, case number 21-CV-2385, addressing the constitutionality of Senate Bill 40. Do I need to do that? Okay.
Are there any questions or comments on the whereas statement? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that item passes 7-0. And now we will have comments from board members, and we'll start with Ms. Embry.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Goodburn.
It's been a joy working with you, and congratulations on your retirement.
I want to echo what Ms. Goodburn said, looking at that video and seeing how young and fresh we all were. You have pre-COVID. You've earned your retirement, and I hope that you have an opportunity to enjoy your family and your new grandbaby.
Seeing that video, I wish you had had more opportunity to interact with students during your tenure here, but you clearly brought a very student-centered focus to our district, enhanced our student-centered focus, I should say, and really brought in the community on shaping a direction that will take us forward for the next 5 to 10 years, clearly. So thank you. It's been a privilege.
I will echo the same congratulations, thank yous as well. 3 years ago, we were doing the interview process. One of the things that stood out was you were very much a humble servant leader, and you have been that throughout this process. That stood out to us 3 years ago, and you exemplified it for these last 3 years. In this time that we live in, where humble leadership is probably not praised and lifted up, and there's other styles that people gravitate towards. I'm pleased to know you, and I'm pleased to have you as our leader these last 3 years. It's been an honor. Thank you.
I just want to wish you well, too, and thank you for all that you have done for the district, all you have done for the board. I have appreciated your leadership, and I feel like the district is on a firm foundation with that strategic plan. And I know that Dr. Hubbard will take it and run with it even further. So thank you for giving us that foundation and for setting us on a course that will result in the success of our students. And so thank you for that, and enjoy what is to come, some time with family, but also some new professional pursuits as well. And so I wish you all the best in all of those.
Thank you for caring about kids, all kids. You're one of the few people I reach out to when there's a success of my own child in Shawnee Mission, because I know you get just as excited about, the successes of my kids in our district as I do. So I really look for, I always want to tell you oh, guess what happened today? So thank you for sharing in that joy with me personally. Also, just as a new board member, I shared with Dr. Fulton earlier tonight, and I think it's worth stating publicly. When I came on this board, we were in the middle of this contentious teacher negotiations and trying to understand school finance, trying to understand just the nuances of our budget. You took my calls on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday. I mean, we spent hours on the phone going through things with a fine-tooth comb, and I know that really took time out of your personal life, but there was no question that was dumb. There was no, you always took the time for me, and I can't thank you enough for that. I know that took you away from your family, and you did it anyway with kindness and with the heart of an educator. So I'll just circle back to, once again, thank you for caring about all kids. So, and I'm excited to work with you, Dr. Hubbard, as well. So thanks.
All right, that concludes our meeting this evening. There is no executive session to follow, and so we will see you at our next meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Organizational meeting.
Oh, shoot. Shoot. All right, there is business to follow. We will take a 5-minute break, and then we will have our organizational meeting. Thank you, everyone. All right, we will now call to order the organizational meeting. And the first item on the agenda for an organizational meeting is the Pledge of Allegiance. So we will once again rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item on the agenda is appointments. These are the appointments for our KSA positions. I will seek a motion to approve in a second, and then we can discuss it.
We don't know who's in the position, so should we read that first, or?
Sure. Historically, the deputy superintendent serves as treasurer. The deputy treasurer is Russell Knapp, our CFO, and then for the clerk is Terry Wintering. Oh, sure.
I'll make a motion to approve as written with treasurer Joe Gilhouse, deputy treasurer Russ Knapp, and clerk Terry Wintering.
I'll second that.
Okay. We can open it for discussion, or Dr. Fulton, you can provide us with information, or?
I think that's accurate. I'd defer to Dr. Hubbard on this since it's for next year.
I don't have anything to add. I think we're good.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I'll seek a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move, Goodburn.
Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Second, Jessica. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. The next item on the agenda is the consent items. I'll seek a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes 7-0. Moving on to item E1, the resolution to establish our Board of Education meeting dates for the 21-22 fiscal year. I'll seek a motion and a second.
So move, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second?
Second, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. Are there any comments or questions on this resolution? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Item passes 7-0. Ratification of policies. I'll seek a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, that item passes sorry. I am going to need more coffee tonight. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that item also passes 7-0. And the Board of Education Committee elections, these occur now due to some of the changes with regards to the elections that took place a couple of years ago. I will seek a motion to approve and a second, and then we will have discussion on these items. I believe that there is an amendment for this that.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
So we don't have the names to make a motion on at this point in here.
Correct. So I think that Dr. Sinclair was planning on bringing an amendment. Wait. These are the Kansas Association of School Boards positions that are currently held by Dr. Sinclair, Reverend Guy, and Sarah Goodburn. We have nominations for this that we will review, but it is my understanding that Dr. Sinclair was bringing an amendment to extend the time for the next 6 months for it to be continuous. So if she seeks that amendment and it's seconded and passes, then we would not review those who are nominated for a second subsequent vote. Yes. Okay. But if the motion to extend for 6 months does not pass, then we will bring forward the nominations for the positions.
So are we wanting to move, or the intent is to move these to the January cycle with the other board officers? Was there some discussion as to, there was a reason why KASB is kept on the school year and not in the middle of the year? Does anyone else remember that?
Yeah, Laura, was it your position that?
Well, no, they moved their own president's terms to match the new election cycle. But I think the organizational meeting and adding new positions, I think, is up to the individual boards. It just has to be done annually, I think.
Clarification, so
Sure, Mr. Shawnee.
when do the areas that elect, because we have our own spots on the board, but the areas elect, when do they elect and when does that person begin?
Then the time I've been on the board of directors, there have been new people almost every time we meet, because they ask people to serve for a 3-year term, but like for me, I'm not going to be on this board, so to fulfill the 3-year term. And people step down, and so the areas and boards pick somebody else mid-year. So I don't know how to answer that.
Well, let me try. So the annual meeting takes place in December normally. It'll be November this year. And then, so folks are elected by their area. I believe they all then start technically July 1 as opposed to January 1 when they're elected at the December meeting. Am I wrong? I don't know that, which is why we have it in this July meeting. I'm trying to get to the therefore.
I believe I started in August, or at least that was my first meeting that I attended, and there were 2 other people who were starting new at that point. But like I said, virtually every time we meet, it seems like there's one new person that's coming on.
And they've made changes just since the last 2 years to the cycles.
In your opinion, Reverend Guy, do you think, with regards to the Board of Directors position, do you think ideally the person would start prior to the convention typically held in December, which is now in November, or do you think it matters at all?
I don't know that it matters.
Okay.
The nominating committee has to meet, obviously, before the annual meeting, because they have to have a candidate for the people to, and the legislative committee is seasonal as well. But as I said, it's been pretty fluid in the time that I've been with them.
Go ahead, Dr. Sinclair. Yes.
Part of the thinking was that if, come January, if we have a a number of positions changing in leadership, would it behoove us to look at all open positions in January and make those changes then? And so that's part of the reason why there might be a consideration of delaying and minimizing the number of changes. So if there's positions for these 6 months, and then people become interested in others because there's change in leadership and all those other positions open up in January. So part of it is just thinking about, there's, I think, 14 different leadership positions across the board to sit in on various committees and that kind of thing. So one thought would be, do we want to stay the course now and make the change for all 14 of those in January? Or do we want to go ahead and nominate now and, think about that again in 6 months? So that was kind of the underlying rationale behind that. So the motion would be to, I can't find the motion at my write-up, I apologize. So the motion would be to extend the current appointments in those 4 positions to January of those people currently sitting. So Ms. Goodburn is holding the KASB nominating committee. I serve on the KASB Legislative Committee. Reverend Guy sits on the KASB Board of Directors, and Ms. Goodburn is the SMAC representative.
Or Ms. Borgman.
I mean, Borgman. Would I say Bergman?
Goodburn.
Goodburn, that's okay.
Borgman.
Normally it's Embry, so.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so are you making your motion?
So my motion, yes. So one option, so the motion would be to consider extending the current appointments as previously stated for the next 6 months and have all positions to be reconsidered in January.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
Second, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Workman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay?
It looks like that passes 6-1. And so we will continue these terms till 6 months from now, at which point there will be at least 1 board member, potentially more, and all the positions will be shuffled.
She needs the mic.
Sorry, I will repeat this. So that passes 6-1, and all the positions currently held will be retained for the next 6 months. And 6 months from now, those elections will be held, and all of the positions will be up on the board. And so everyone can shuffle to where they want to be. Okay, so now I think I can adjourn the meeting, and there's no business to follow. But Brad, let me know.
We're good.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for sticking with us tonight. Have a lovely evening, and we will reconvene again in July.